Have you ever wanted to be nothing but beautiful? God, don't you think Seon has too much on her plate? The room erupted into laughter. It's always been so easy for me to become the butt of the joke. Compared to the other women in the office, I wasn't anything special. They were all gorgeous. It's a shame. Their personalities made them so ugly. I wasn't someone who kept up with the latest fashion trends or bothered with trying to stand out. But I'd never snoop to their level and pick on someone based on their looks. On my train ride home that day, a woman had taken the seat next to me. She smelled like sweet vanilla, and my eyes slowly glanced over to get a glimpse of her face. Her eyes sparkled with fair skin that seemed to glow, and she had a figure that belonged to a runway model. I must have stared too long, because she looked over at me and smiled, with a slight wave of her perfectly manicured hand. My face flushed red as I turned away, subconsciously running my fingers through my tangled hair. I must have seemed so pathetic compared to someone like her. The woman spoke up. My name's Diana. It was a casual name that almost didn't seem to befit her. Are you interested in becoming a model? She asked, with a slight smile spreading across her face. A model, I repeated. This has got to be some sort of cruel joke. Diana shook her head, slipping a business card into my hands. No, I'm serious. You have potential to be walking down the runway. If only... Her voice trailed off as she avoided eye contact with me. I stared back at her. If only what? I questioned. Suddenly, my whole body was invested in this conversation. If only you would lose a few pounds, she said, handing me another flyer for a suspicious weight loss pill. This pill works wonders. You wouldn't believe the results I got in less than 24 hours. If you took this tonight, you'd be ready to model within the next week. My face of hopefulness had hardened into a scowl. Of course, she was only flattering me to get a quick buck. The train had announced my stop, so I got up and stormed out of there. As I walked away, I heard her shout, "Think about it." I arrived back at my apartment, catching a glimpse of myself in the mirror. Was I defective? Why can't I be as beautiful as all the other women in the office? Why can't I just be happy with myself? I reached into my purse for a tissue, but my hands had grasped onto something cylinder-shaped. Diana had slipped a sample pill bottle into my bag before I managed to get off the train. In a last attempt, I took a handful of pills, then laid down on my bed, drifting off to sleep. The next morning, my body felt lighter than ever. I rubbed my eyes, then caught a glimpse of my hands. My fingers were thin and long, with the bones of my knuckles more predominant. I sat up, looking down at my body. Was this seriously mine? Next thing I knew, I was racing towards the restroom. I couldn't believe my eyes. My face and body had completely transformed overnight. Finally, I could show everyone at the office that I could be beautiful too. When I arrived at work, the building security guard stopped me. He was always kind to me, no matter how I looked. But today, he didn't seem to recognize me at all. I showed him my ID and explained what had happened last night. His face transformed into a look of worry as I told him my story.
Seon, I think you should go to the hospital. This doesn't sound right.
I couldn't help but scoff. Who was he to worry about me? I was fine. If anything, I felt better than ever before. As I made my way to my cubicle, I felt the eyes of my coworkers on me. It was satisfying to see everyone staring at me in awe instead of pity. The women who had once ridiculed me were now crowding around me, asking how I managed to lose so much weight. Of course, I couldn't let them in on my secret. They invited me out to lunch, probably to try and pry the answers from me. but I decided to skip lunch for the first time in forever. Ever since I'd woken up that morning, my stomach felt full. Instead, I decided to take another pill. After finishing my shift, I made my way home. Looking in the mirror, I noticed something wrong with my hand. Bone was beginning to show through my skin. I took a closer look at my face and saw my cheekbones beginning to stick out. My skin was beginning to peel off. I gasped and ran towards the fridge. My hands moved on their own as I stuffed my face with any possible food I could reach. I chugged expired milk. My fingers bled as I tried to carve out pieces of frozen chicken with my bare hands. And I ate rotten fruit to satisfy my cravings. The next morning, I woke up in front of the fridge, surrounded by the leftovers of last night. Rushing towards the restroom, I realized that my bones had disappeared back into my skin. The area around my mouth was covered in crumbs of food, but I didn't care. I was still beautiful. I made my way to the office, ignoring the security guard's look of pity. As I sat in my cubicle, my throat began to itch. I was still so hungry. When it was time for lunch, I took another pill to try and satisfy my cravings. Yet, it wasn't enough. As the majority of my coworkers left to attend meetings, I sneaked to the company fridge. Everything smelled so delicious. I made my way from the bottom to the top, eating everything in sight. It didn't matter if I was allergic or if it didn't taste good. I ate it all. Afterwards, I went back to my desk and pretended as if nothing had happened. When my coworkers returned and saw that their food had gone missing, they wreaked havoc on each other. However, I didn't feel a tinge of guilt. That night, I took 2 handfuls of pills before going to bed. When I woke up, I knew I had lost even more weight. When I stared at my reflection, I could no longer recognize myself. Almost all the meat had been drained from my body, and my skin was peeling even more. Yet, I was still starving. On my way to the office, I struggled to see. Everything looked so blurry, and I felt like fainting. While walking to my cubicle, I suddenly stopped. My boss stood in front of me, a disapproving look on his face. He told me he reviewed the surveillance footage from yesterday and demanded to know why I had eaten everyone's lunch. My coworkers all gathered around to watch as I struggled to stand. I looked him in the eyes, feeling something crawling up my throat. I opened my mouth to say something to him, but the only thing that came out was blood, as I projectile vomited all over him. My body began to go numb, as I felt bones force themselves out my mouth. I laid there, motionless, in a pile of bones and blood surrounding my empty skin. Was this what it was like to be beautiful? Thank you for watching, and a quick disclaimer, I don't mean to body shame anyone with this video. I just know what it's like to want to rip your own skin off, so I thought it would be interesting to make a video based off of that horror. I think all body types are beautiful, and you don't have to be skinny in order to be pretty. So goodbye for now, but not forever.